Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the video. My name is Brian, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. If you've been following my channel at all, you know that at the first of the year we changed the title of this channel from P.B.M. Money to P.B.M. Money and Personal Growth. And in today's video, I want to talk about one of the things that I've done this year to facilitate my personal growth. One of the loves I had when I was young was reading. And with the advent of the internet and computers, I got away from that. So I decided at the first of the year, one of the goals I wanted to set for the year, and indefinitely probably, is to set aside 15 minutes per day to read. And when I say read, I mean a physical book. I wanted to read things that interested me, that would keep my attention, and that would help me become a better person. And I was actually kind of surprised. I mean, 15 minutes a day. When I say 15 minutes a day, I mean 5 days a week. So I didn't do the math. What's 5 times 15? 75, so a little over an hour a week. And I did, and I stuck to that. And for the first 4 months of this year, I have read 3 books. And today, I just want to kind of go over what I have read, what I got out of it, and how it has helped me to grow. Now, the first one that I bought has to do with real estate. And again, for those of you that have been following, you know that I have been into Airbnbs now since October of 2 years ago. So I'm basically a year and a half, going on 2 years. But I'm a totally hands-off owner. I have somebody to take care of that for me, but I decided it might be a good idea if I learned a little bit about the business. So the first book I read was called Airbnb for Dummies. Yes, please, I'm a dummy. Now, one of the many things that I learned in here is that there's all kinds of tips and tricks to help a beginner get started in Airbnb. And even though I'm hands-off, I have kind of observed and watched very closely as my manager has guided us through this. And by the way, we're doing fabulous with Airbnb. She's doing a great job. We're making tons of cash. So I've learned a lot along the way. One of the things I learned in this book, though, that I was unaware of, just to give you an example, was that a lot of the communication between host and the people that are booking the Airbnb can be automated. And I didn't know that. My manager did it all personally, which is great. But I mentioned to her one day that I really didn't want her spending her time and me spending my money on her doing mundane tasks. Maybe we should have it automated, and she gave me an excuse why it didn't happen. The funny thing about the whole situation is about 3 months later, we had people that had booked, and they asked for early check-in time. She gave it to them. They didn't check in early. They went right to their event, and they got out at midnight and expected the manager to have the code, so they didn't get in. Fortunately, Airbnb stepped in. They got their code. They were unhappy. They left a poor rating, blah, blah, blah. My manager then automated check-in procedures so that it's automated, it's done every time, and Airbnb knows if and when those codes were given. That way, anytime we get a bad thing saying we weren't communicative, Airbnb knows better. So that was the first book. The second book that I read, again, had to do with real estate. And this time, the reason that I picked up this book is I used to be in the business years and years ago, and I got out of it because I hated it. And I wasn't very good at it because I didn't know what I was doing. So as I got back into it this time, I thought, maybe things have changed. Maybe I need a refresher course just to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. So the The second book that I got is this one, and it's called The Millionaire. Can you get the light to reflect? The Millionaire's Real Estate Investor. And the cute little catching title on the front of it says, anyone can do it, not everyone will. Will you? Again, has to do with real estate. It interests me, but I got to be honest, this book kind of bored me because it was very basic. And if you've been in any business for any amount of time, you know all the basics. You're looking to upgrade your knowledge, increase your base, so that in effect you can increase your income. This book did none of that for me. I mean, it talked about the basics, it talked about properties and going through them, how to finance them, little tips and tricks to getting tenants, but it was all pretty basic. I have to be honest, that book kind of bored me. Now the last book I read was a throwback, because when I was in my teens and 20s, I was a voracious reader, and I had two genres that I thoroughly enjoyed. One of them was biographies of U.S. presidents, and the second genre was books on the Civil War from soldier standpoints. So this book that I got, the last book that I read for the first 4 months, was called President Garfield. I can't get the light. President Garfield. Now, for all the presidential biographies I've read, I knew nothing about President Garfield. And yes, the cat was named after him. But he led a very interesting life. I did not know, as an example, that he was in the Civil War. He was a brigadier general in the Civil War. I did not know that he served in the House. He did for many years, had a very good reputation. And I did not know that he was attempted assassinated, and he ultimately died as the second assassinated president in office. Which, by the way, just as a bit of trivia, every 20 years, starting with Lincoln, all the way up until Ronald Reagan, the president that was in office at that time was assassinated. Reagan was shot, but he was not assassinated. The interesting thing that I took away from this book, and you can tell let me show you. You can see how thick this book is. I mean, this book took a minute to read. But I read it voraciously because I was extremely interested. And he was shot, and he was shot for political reasons, but the bullet didn't kill him. If that would have happened today, he would have been fine. The reason he died, and I know this is going to sound gross, but back in those days, in the 1800s, medicine was not what it is today. So when he was shot in the side from behind, in order to get the bullet, the doctors took their fingers and stuck it into the bullet wound to try to find the bullet. Now, as I said, medical standards were not the same. Their fingers were not clean. They were dirty, and they kept sticking their finger in there. It was a long, grueling, painful death that President Garfield died, and he died simply because of the time that he lived in. It became infected, and he died from the infection. The doctors at the time didn't understand infection, they didn't understand germs and open wounds, they didn't understand a lot. And because of that, President Garfield died in office. So the reason that I mentioned the books that I read is because I felt like if we're going to change the title of our channel to include personal growth, then we need to talk about personal growth. And reading, to me, is not only entertaining, but I think it's critical for your personal growth. If you get all of your content from the computer or TV or radio, you're missing a valuable, important part of personal growth, and that's your imagination. Because as you read, you can visualize everything that happened. And that's why I remembered how President Garfield died, because it was very vivid in my brain. Well, I highly encourage you to seek your own personal growth in whatever venue it takes. Mine happens to be reading, and that's what we're doing this year. And maybe we'll do other personal growth things. Another one that I set for this year was to do one fun thing per month. And so far I've done that, and maybe we'll do a video on that. Well, if you found this interesting or you got anything at all from this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button. Now, I am never going to monetize this channel, no matter how many subs I get. But this channel is part of our ministry, and I would like to reach as many people as possible. And the more likes and the more subs I get, the more people will have the opportunity to watch our videos. So please subscribe and hit the like button. Well, you guys have a great day, and we will see you on the next video from P.B.M. Money and Personal Growth.